This is by far the best post music I've ever heard. Battletoads, for those too young to remember, was a franchise from the times where absurd characters were born. Anthropomorphic creatures with muscles or skills that were made into series and video games. Best times ever. The world was simpler. However, we found ourselves 26 years later after our green heroes defeated the Dark Queen. They were actually trapped into a pocket dimension, with some genetic worker finds.
You know, for construction stuff, and I find this bunker with friggin' frogs trapped inside. And I mean, it stinks. So we checked the wiring, and these morons been in there for 26 years living a simulated fantasy life.
And their lives were filled with so much work and irrelevance that Rush's sense of heroism kicks in and decides to hunt down the Dark Queen once more. The immediate comparison with Battletoads of the 90s will make old-school gamers raise an eyebrow at first. The art style animation or the fact that there are basically infinite lives and no game over. The memory of those who played the old Toads is that gameplay was extremely hard, especially in multiplayer, and that after losing all your few lives, your game was over. But more on that later. This new Battletoads, unlike its predecessors, changes in many important aspects. It has some very hard stages, a difficult setting, various checkpoints, infinite continuous saves, progress, and even 3 lives, one for each Toad if you are playing alone, that even regenerates at checkpoints, reducing the overall challenge of the game. In exchange, some areas require a very specific skill and reflexes to overcome. Sometimes you will try 10-20 times just to pass a specific area, and not to mention the Battletoads difficulty, which basically doubles the power of enemies and puts checkpoints further apart. But how hard is this game really is? It's not easy, I can tell you that. I found myself repeating some areas many times and restarting whole levels a couple of times. I died a few times in the first level while learning how to play, when enemies completely overwhelmed you with attacks from all directions, but there was hardly any punishment whatsoever. And that made my playthrough less challenging because I keep trying on the spot. In essence, the fighting is actually fun and engaging. You will find out how to best use your combos, and every frog has its distinctive finisher with the well-known exaggerated animation that feels oddly satisfying. You can also have some good aerial combos and some other tricks like rats with the tongue. They are frogs, it makes perfect sense.
We're not frogs.
The graphics are bright, colorful, and almost psychedelic. Although there is not much depth in fighting, you will have to dodge fast, react quickly, and constantly move between enemies. It is truly very dynamic and entertaining. And as such, to not make things boring, it is not just a brawling game, but also a space shooter. Like coming to the arcades where you navigate through a bullet storm and shoot everything on sight, without thinking on the consequences, like all video games should be. So it's kind of refreshing that you can also play sports games here too, like the Toads Olympics, a series of mini-games which awards you points depending on how fast you are. And if you were asking if there are flying bikes, there are. Yes, I know the perspective changed, but it's fun nonetheless. And if you're also tired of flying bikes and punching aliens and pigs, you can relax with some angry management platforming with some minor puzzles here and there, which is a change of pace. And also there is... what the heck is this anyway? Anyways, today developers can finally define each of the Toads' personalities, give them voices, and their own style. They are more than just characters and text boxes. They redefined the formula and humoristic style and made a great job at it. Also, despite its silliness, there is logic in the story, which means no more story fillers or weird endings. So, even if you love the Battletoads of old, you have to at least appreciate what they have done here. With this kind of humor, you will have to smile at least once when playing. And if you do not like the silly humor, then I'm afraid to say that there are long cinematics between levels. I mean, very long, which is somehow disproportionate to the amount of playable content there is. Even by today's standards, this game is short, around 5 hours, which is sad because even as short as it is, it feels really like a series of minigames, like Mario Party with a story. There could have been a lot more fighting, because it's definitely the best part of Battletoads, if only the platforming had more clever puzzles, but no. At least everything is wrapped up nicely at the end. I really wanted more brawling, it's really well done, but I digress. The art they use is an extreme change from what we knew. They also went for the sarcastic, absurd humor of modern cartoons, like Teen Titans. This was on point for the new audiences, which probably were not alive when the first Battletoads came out back in the 1990s. Other than the change of style, it is all you expect from Battletoads. Big fists turned into bricks, flying bikes, minigames, brawling, platforming, and a local co-op multiplayer, it's all here. But also space shooting, Olympic games, angry management classes, and as my master used to say, if you find the need to release some steam, go make some.
Street justice!
That will always make you feel better. I guarantee it. I'm just kidding, don't go punch random people on the street, please. There is really not much else I can say about it. Of all the video games that have came out, it is rare to see the game over screen anymore. It's no surprise in this game too don't know what game over really means. Overall challenge of game has diminished, which is why the roguelike genre finds a very small but loyal audience. Perhaps Battletoads would have been a roguelike, general perception would have been different. But the game is meant to be funny, like a playable cartoon, and though this angle is not a bad one, it suffers with how short the game is, and the minigames are somehow annoying when playing a second time. Battletoads ends up being a simple game with an engaging broad gameplay that slows the pace with weird minigames and really long cinematics. And being this short makes you want more fighting. At least you can play with 2 friends, and sounds like it could make things crazy, especially in the minigames. In the end, it's a decent game to have. Nothing really remarkable or innovative, with the chance to see all 3 Toads in action at the same time for the first time in history. At least, Rare didn't utterly destroy Battletoads' legacy. They just threw them into irrelevance once more. Thank you for watching. Remember to stay focused and keep your gaming in balance. Farewell.